Welcome, beloved awakened one. I'm Monica Bermudez, and this is the podcast of the Ascended Earth, the Transfiguration of the new you, the new human. We are an ever-evolving human, learning, growing, expanding, and upgrading. What you are and always will be is a divine, cosmic galactic source from source, more than you can imagine. But not all of us are living to our fullest potential. It is time to embrace what you are and unlock your magical keys and spiritual gifts. This podcast is a transmission of energy codes meant to unlock other dormant DNAs to remember, reconnect, revive, and renew you to the new human, the avatar that you are. This is the Transfiguration of the new you. Welcome, beloved. I'm Monica Bermudez, and this is an introduction episode to kick off my first podcast. And I want to talk about who I am and basically introduce myself and what led up to this point and why I am launching this podcast. It's actually something that I've been desiring now for a while since I launched my business at the end of 2020. And first, starting off as to who I am, pretty much, and what I do, kind of. So I'm a high priestess, Lemurian high priestess. And I'm also a cosmic quantum activator, a cosmic channeler. And I am an embodiment of the creatrix, which is another form of saying the divine feminine, sacred feminine. And I also channel light language. And I also have new blueprint codes for the new human, which is, the reason why I call this podcast the Transfiguration of the New Human. So a lot of my words and what I share do have encodements to them, energy encodements. So I don't necessarily have to always channel the light language. They just are embedded in my words and what is being channeled in the moment for each episode. So just kind of introducing where I've been and my story that led up to this point, because I didn't always call myself these things or know that I had this, ability, although it would sometimes resurface from time to time, but didn't really have like a word for it or wasn't fully awakened, but I was partially awakened for a very long time. And I grew up with a lot of mysticism in the background. It wasn't like something that I would talk about publicly or openly with others. And I kept it hidden, except for those who I knew through the mystical organization itself and those who I connected with openly to share. And so I never really talked about, not even my spiritual side either, about all things related to like psychic powers and all these other abilities. I didn't always talk with others so openly, except for now that I am speaking publicly more so than usual. And I grew up being a very quiet, shy person. So I could never have imagined myself doing this right now, I would say like 10 years ago. And as a matter of fact, what really triggered everything that led me to here was as at the end of 2012, I was faced with a difficult decision of making a choice of whether I was going to stay in a marriage or divorce. And, the marriage was actually very toxic. It wasn't the right one for both of us. And the only reason why it was so hard for me to decide whether I would divorce or I would stay in a marriage is because part of me was still in this fear mode as to whether I wouldn't find, anybody else. So basically be alone. So it's the fear of being alone. So I realized, after going back and forth on many levels, that the divorce was the best option. And it didn't matter what other people were thinking. So that was the other fear that I had was, what would people think, and all of these other projections and all the things that I realized that were these unconscious patterns or patterns that were there. Probably I was in denial facing them, and realized that I needed to transmute a lot of patterns inside of me. But after the divorce, I really thought that I had completed my lifespan on this earth. And I thought that I was done because I was a very accomplished person when it came to educational matters and when it came to my mystical studies, which I did so much volunteer work since I was little. So it was pretty much my whole life in a way, but I was still operating behind the scenes. So while I was, in my other jobs at work, in my 3D educational studies and working in my 3D company, I never really spoke about this other behind the scenes path of my mysticism, my spirituality, my other cosmic self, of what really appealed to me, what I was so passionate about. And I've always been very passionate about all those things. And so I kept all of that hidden. So basically I was like a closet spiritual person. So I never thought, of making it like a business in my life. It was never a desire either. And I thought, when the divorce happened, that was really, that I had completed everything I needed to complete it. And what resurfaced out of all that, as I spent my time, at first I spent too much time overanalyzing it, that it was just also driving me crazy. It was just becoming so unhealthy, let's just say. But I quickly realized that a lot of it doesn't always have to be overanalyzed. And so that's when I started to really tap into my own heart and started to shift a lot of patterns that just weren't serving me, and became so aware about them that I made a conscious decision to transmute as much as possible, or all of them. And the more that I was doing that, the more that I started hearing this other inner voice, this other calling in my heart, and that it was coming from the soul. And it was this message about, oh, you're just beginning this new path. And this path is that you're bringing these new energy codes to this earth. And you have this other layer of purpose that is resurfacing. And so when I first started hearing these messages that were, constant, it wasn't just like, one time it was said. I really thought, it was just something that was being made up. So there was a lot of, things around worthiness and deserving and all these other things that I needed to just really start working and shifting in myself. And so I really thought that there was a mistake, that wasn't true. And so I sought others who were, channeling at the time, just to get confirmation, or to see if, they would tell me that no, what you're, getting is probably not accurate. So I would just let them give me the information without me sharing who I was and what I was, hearing. And they would say exactly the messages that I was receiving. And so that gave me the confirmation that I'm not making this up, This is actually coming from my own heart. And I realized that I really needed to start trusting myself. And those were the areas that I also needed to transmute as well. There was a lot of doubt, there was a lot of distrust, and there was, so much of this unworthiness and undeserving that was just starting to resurface. And it just needed to be transmuted or, shifted in order for me to be able to fully step into my own authenticity of my own soul and just be in my own passion, my own heart calling of the soul. And so that's why, I emphasize the heart so much in most of my messages, because that is the one that I started with the most in the grief that I was during that divorce, the separation, was actually being activated and being molded and rebuilt with these new unique energy codes that I now carry and I share with so many of my clients as well, to bring together the entire heart, that is the higher, the upper heart and the lower heart, and all aspects of the heart. And for me, that is one of the biggest foundations of so much more that is related to all the entire chakra system of the body. And I feel like when that is, very firm, very strong, that it helps to bring in more awareness, awakening, connection with self, and a much stronger surrender as well to your higher aspect of the universe that you carry within your own heart. Because we all have, especially those who are listening to this podcast or who feel drawn to this, have a very big heart, because I have a big heart. And it's not because, I didn't even realize how much of a big heart I had until I started to really mold and activate more of my own heart and bring it together, as I started to transmute a lot of the patterns that I was so aware of. And I was very determined to do so. Now, I mentioned that, I grew up with a lot of mystical studies, and a lot of it, involved with meditation. So I grew up with meditation. I had so many other tools as well that I use. And after, the divorce, I tried every tool that I could to really quantum shift, quantum transmute, but I felt that it wasn't strong enough. It's almost like I like to compare it, I guess, to coffee. Like if you like really strong coffee, you go for like a stronger coffee that you can find. And so for me, it was when I stumbled in light language that, hearing about it for the first time, I thought, well, why not? I'll give it a try. I've tried everything that I could possibly try. In the moment that I tried it, everything started to really vibrate in my cells and shift, and I felt my cosmic body reawaken completely, like shift into this other mode. And it was going into this quantum field level. And I thought, well, this is very different, and this is exactly what I'm looking for. So I wanted to just be a part of it even more. And I never thought, that at some point, like the more that I listened to, the more that I was shifting the patterns. I never realized that it would also spark and trigger my own ability in the channeling of light language. And it's not something that I desired to do as a business, actually, because I still was not in this, mindset of like making it as a business. I was just in this mode of just wanting to basically reheal myself and reconnect myself and just be in a state without feeling all this grief, trauma, and pain that was resurfacing. A lot of it from my heart. And then, moving into the other chakras areas like the solar plexus, the sacral, there was a lot of wounds around there. And my throat chakra was another big one that I have been shifting so that I may speak my voice, which has led me to this now, to be able to speak publicly. And it's not until the end of 2020 that I actually started to launch my business, because that is when I started to really get stronger, start trusting myself. But it was, quite a journey, quite a road to get there. And one of them was to overcome my biggest fear of stage fright. And for anybody who may have been following me in my YouTube channel in the very beginning, you would see how nervous I was and how, hard it was for me to even like speak in public in such, great magnitude as being on a YouTube, being on Facebook Live. And the reason was because in my past lives that I started to remember some of them. And the reason why I remember some of them was for completing cycles and closing those lessons from that, is because a lot of it had to do with my stage fright. And some of those which I had, spoken up from my own divine voice of the truths of things. And of course, during the times of like medieval times, a lot of that was very dark. That's why they call it Dark Ages, where, I was pretty much killed for speaking up. So that was their way of silencing me, and having lived that and remember and clearing that right now, a lot of, what happened in the past. This is different now with everything that is happening right now in the world, the ascension, the awakening process, the whole 5D, or, however you want to phrase it, the higher dimensions, the expansiveness that we are becoming, these new humans, is, we are definitely at a much faster frequency pulse of energy for this earth itself. And it continues to expand even more so. So it is different from if we lived in in a time of the Dark Ages, where it was forbidden to speak these things, and you will be burned or hanged or whatever torturous mechanism that was used to silence someone. If you call it like the witch hunt, the whatever, was occurring at that time for a lot of the starseeds and the light workers who kept coming back and trying, carrying that torch. And now you can just carry that torch, not have to go through that. However, though, there's still, those layers of our unconscious, subconscious patterns that sometimes are still playing in that background of those traumas and those pains. And so you could say, though, that my life path, from the divorce until that led me to my business, that led me to this podcast now that I'm speaking to you, has been a transfiguration for me. And so the transfiguration of the new human is a continuous, path, because we're always expanding one way or another. Because since we are the universe and we are part of the universe is also expansive. And there's been the science to back it up as well, that is starting to catch up with a lot of the knowledge that has been around for ancient times. And so that's the reason why this podcast is here. Ascended Earth, Transfiguration of the New Human. Because we are going through this transfiguration right now. In an individual level and also in a collective level. And so the more of us who come together now as starseeds, light workers, way showers, we're building this foundation for this new earth. And that foundation that is being built is what will shape us in the future. And that foundation, though, starts with you. Just like it started with me 10 years ago. When I really was determined to just start with shifting those patterns inside of me that weren't serving me. And that's all it takes, is that willpower. The willpower to want to change. Because you have that ability to decide for yourself and make that choice. And to fulfill what you came to fulfill on this earth. It's your own contract. Your soul contract. This is my soul contract to be here now, serving Source, and through Source, serving you, humanity, the planet, and the universe. So my desire for this podcast and the intention that I set is that it bring you that transfiguration into that new human, and that you also shift your patterns and receive those transmissions of energy codes that are being channeled in each and every episode. I do feel that all of us have the ability to be an avatar. So that is another way of looking at it for this podcast as well, is that transfiguration of the new human. We all have this ability as avatars. We have such great potential in us. More than what this physical human, has been built around us. And the lies that we've been told growing up in certain media and in certain societies. So I'm not here to sugarcoat things for you. I want to speak the truth now. Speak from my divine truth. And speak to you. Speak to your heart of who you really are. Because you are an avatar. And you have such great potential. And so whatever challenge you're going through right now, you can overcome it. And it's just a matter of that determination and that willingness to want to do that. Now, if you're going to be in denial of it, then you're just going to be in denial of it. There's nothing I could do because that change really comes from you. Just like I made my own choice and my own change, and that led to my own path. because I am fulfilling my contract by being here, being present in this way, and sharing my voice, delivering the messages that I receive in a moment to be shared with you, and to bring them to your heart, that they be felt at the core of your own heart. So yes, the desire is for you to break free from any of the barriers that are holding you back from that potential. And that is the intention that I want to set throughout this whole podcast. So there's going to be a lot that I'll be sharing, and a lot of it will revolve around star seeds and our star family. So instead of calling them aliens, I like to consider them as our star family, because they're also connected to us through our ancestry, lineage. There is so much more to our DNA than just the physical. And we have several forms of blueprints within ourselves as well that are being redesigned. And that is my intention as well, is to redesign the human blueprint, to bring about that transfiguration of the new human. Because I want you to be free. I want you to live a happier, more peaceful life. You deserve it. Just like I deserve it too, when I made that conscious choice. And so that is, the message that I want to relay about the reasons why this podcast exists, why I'm here now, what led me to this, and the intentions that I have for you and the podcast. And some of the star seeds that I feel personally very connected to, that I know that I'll be talking a lot more, are the Lyrans, Sirius, and the Pleiadians. And there's going to be more as well. But I do feel that the Lyrans do want to relay a lot of messages and communicate a lot to us. So I'm serving as a messenger and a vessel of these energies and these messages for these episodes. And of course, I will be talking a lot about Lemuria and my family, Tellus. And specifically also, I feel the High Priest Adama, who will be also communicating through me in some of the messages as well. As I carry some of his encodements within me that are embedded and that they're beginning to flourish and reawaken. So there's a form of remembrance as well. And much more. I talk about the earth and the energies and some of the astrological planets that are occurring, some of the events, cosmic events in our life, and how this is impacting us in our life, as well as any patterns, common patterns that were common in me and that I saw have been common in my clients as well. So this is, the message that I wish to leave you with. And I look forward to connecting with you in so many of the episodes moving forward and sharing more information with you on everything and anything. And just speaking from that divine truth and that divine voice whatever is flowing in that moment that is appropriate to share. And of course, I also plan to bring on other guests that will be co-creating together, pretty much, sharing messages with you. So I'm very excited about this podcast and the launching of it. And I can't wait to share more with you in this platform, as well as Star Family that wants to share with you, because I know that you are also connected to them, which is why they want to share their messages here in this platform as well. So, from my heart to your heart, I am sending you so much love. And from all multidimensional selves, I am sending you love. And I just want to have a shout out for Leah Steele and Shane and all those behind the scenes who have been and are helping me to set up this whole podcast show and episodes. And I am grateful for the support in this whole package. So I look forward to connecting with you in the next episode. I am sending you love. Take care. And we will be connected in the quantum field of our multidimensional selves. Bye for now. If you enjoyed this episode, make sure to click like, save, and share with others so they can also experience what you just experienced. And stay tuned for some more high vibe episodes. And I'll be connecting with you in the next quantum field. Sending you so much love.